that felt really good. Happy Tuesday, everyone. So in Monday's TV address, President Biden appeared to have a spray tan. Aides say he tried using a tanning bed, but when they closed the lid, Dr. Jill kept throwing dirt and flowers on top. When media brought up Biden's freshly darkened complexion, Democrat leaders replied that it's all part of their plan to gradually replace him with a person of color. U.S. military bases in Europe are on high alert because of intelligence about a possible terror attack. When reached for comment, Joe Biden said, "Someone should tell the president." The Biden campaign sent out an email accusing his critics of being a bunch of bedwetters. Ironic. Well, isn't that the bedpan calling the kettle wet? Talk about projection. What's next? Calling Biden critics walking corpses who their pants in front of the Pope and won't acknowledge their grandchildren? Aw, a little... Ooh, did I hurt somebody's feelings? You know where the exit is. Democratic strategist James Carville doubled down on his warning that the Democratic Party's messaging is too feminine, though many observers would disagree. And Watergate legend Carl Bernstein says there's been a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. And, like 50 years ago, he relied on an insider codenamed Deep Throat. All right. Oh, you dirty pigs. So, we live in an incredible moment. It's not often we get to see a massive hoax exposed before us and the world. That sort of thing, when those in power are shown as evil liars, that only happens in movies. And, well, just every Scooby-Doo episode ever made.
I'm sure you'll recognize him.
Uncle Stewart!
Well, well. Hank! Just as we thought. Really, Ebenezer Sharp.
What needs to get done for the hostage deal to get resolved, sir?
There is some movement, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from there's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry.
It's a perfect metaphor for this Biden mess, where we're told the villain is one thing, but it always turns out to be something else. Consider yesterday's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. In the dissent, Sotomayor hilariously frets about how far Trump would take it. She writes, quote, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune, 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 immune. But that's all BS, and it's scary coming from a Supreme Court justice, some wise Latina. She makes AOC seem like FDR. Everything she suggests, the president would face impeachment for, and then a trial. But surprise, the media played along.
Presumably, if he were to use SEAL Team 6 to try to assassinate one of his political opponents, so long as he did it through the auspices of the presidency, let's say use the NSA to say, let me investigate the Bidens as a national security threat, and then we need to go ahead and assassinate them when they take a foreign trip. We'll just go ahead and use drones to assassinate them, let's say, in a foreign country, and we'll use SEAL Team 6 to go in and get them like they got bin Laden. As long as you do it through the official apparatuses of the presidency, he can do it.
Given that the hypotheticals over the course of these arguments, as you rightly pointed out, included things like, can the president assassinate a rival? I think we have to look at the Supreme Court's affirmative answer to that. Yes, you can, with as much seriousness as it deserves. I mean, this is a death squad ruling.
I like that guy. Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes. Luckily, she only works Mondays and has 6 days to calm down. But the libs once again rely on extreme fantasy. The president can use SEAL Team 6 to take out critics. Well, if he uses it on The View, they'd be called Meal Team 6. How would Trump take out Biden? Make him climb stairs? Would he slip poison into Pelosi's Botox? Switch out Jerry Nadler's Depends with a suicide diaper? In a perfect act of karma, he could tie Mitt Romney to the roof of the presidential limo. Or maybe Trump could prosecute his political enemies on charges nobody can even explain. That'd be new, right? But this decision is easily explained. On one hand, if the president has no immunity for official actions, we end up with a leader weighing options on whether he'll have to defend them in court someday. He'll be more gun-shy than Alec Baldwin's assistant. But do we want a president who's immune from all prosecution? That's all this was, a guide on the limits of presidential power. But how do you expect a man with one foot in his mouth and the other in the grave to understand that?
Today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Shut up. Nobody is listening. You know, we're just waiting to see if you don't keel over. Now, if this ruling actually meant Trump could do whatever he wants, wouldn't that apply to the sitting president? And I say sitting because standing is a lot to ask of Joe these days. Chewing is asking a lot of him these days. It's not like Biden or whoever's running the show wouldn't use these newfound powers. This is the White House that brought 4 Trump criminal cases along with an unelected defense attorney who chases Trump the way Anna Navarro trails the hot dog vendors of 6th Avenue. If Biden handlers thought they could drone the RNC, Biden's teleprompter would read, "Ready, aim, fire." And Biden would say, "Ready, aim, fire," end of quote. But why is every Supreme Court decision or every word spoken by Trump causing a meltdown usually seen in Jesse's dressing room when he runs out of Aquanet? Well, this is what happens when you see everything through the prism of one man. When one human being becomes the embodiment of all the shortcomings and fears in your life. I swear, I haven't seen one guy cause this much hysteria since I did my last book tour shirtless. Oh. So is this the end of the world? Well, if you're one of the media or enablers who's been hiding the nation's most eminent dementia patient, the answer is yes, it is. You've been exposed. Like me when I forget to wear pants under my chaps. So once again, the left tries to divert us from that other story, the one about us not having a president. Look over here, ignore that vegetable. But there's a contradiction. First, if Trump's so evil, why do you have to make up these crimes? And if defeating Trump is so vital to saving the world, then why are you clowns running a glazed donut against him? But you see, if they don't make the story all about the Trump apocalypse, we're back to an unfit Biden. So they pivot back to the same preposterous place, Trump derangement fueled by hysteria, which reveals 2 problems. For the Dems, this hysteria is a drug to escape reality. Life sucks right now, but if I just take more of this fantasy pill, it temporarily goes away. But instead, it gets worse, because this apocalyptic filter yields no accurate predictions. And over time, people learn that your rantings are just hoaxes. It's how you end up with one of the biggest political scams in history exposed. So what you're witnessing is the end of an era where hoaxes were the foundation for power. Maybe now we can get back to normal, where governance is based on ability and not something imaginary like Joe's pulse. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's handled more roles than a masseuse for The View, comedian Tyler Fisher. She puts her money where her mouth is, but it really should be in a bank. Financial analyst Heather Shabaraga. When she wears stripes, she looks like a barcode. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor, Cat Tips. He turns all-you-can-eat buffets into all-we-have-left buffets. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, former NWA World Champion, How do you think, Tyler, Trump would react to the Supreme Court decision about presidential immunity?
Well, first of all, excuse me, he's doing the orange face, so he's culturally appropriating me with orange face.
Yes.
It's kind of like blackface when you think about it. Some people call him the sitting president. I call him the president. He's himself. But JFK, think about it. They had to have a second shooter, right? For Biden, it would be a banana peel. The second shooter would be a fall breeze, and he would be dead. Just like that. Teddy Roosevelt, right? They shot him, and he kept talking, right?
Yes.
They shot him. Biden gets a question, and he dies. Right? So, not so good. Not so good.
I don't know. This is all a farce at this point. It's hard to even. Biden's starting to look. You remember Fire Marshal Bill?
Right.
He's starting to look like that. He's just like. It just kind of have him just put a stick up his ass and just walk him out.
You're right. He does. You know what? People haven't talked about the silent Joe, not the talking Joe, but the silent Joe in the debate where it was just this death gaze. It was actually super creepy.
Yeah.
It was like frozen.
I thought my computer froze. I started hitting my computer.
Yeah.
I moved the timeline up 2 minutes, and he's still like, oh.
That's the scene in like movies where somebody walks over, like the cop, and goes like this over the eyes.
Yeah.
I go, why do they do that? Heather, always good to see you. We haven't talked since the debate.
No.
Is it my breath?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Do you think? What do you think of the Supreme Court decision? What do you think of everything?
Maddow saying you can politically assassinate someone. She's off her rocker.
Yeah.
Last I checked, President Trump was the president for 4 years, didn't kill anybody that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
And he also left office. He's not a dictator, which he accused him of being. There's something called term limits. So, yes, he could be president again. He's not going to kill anybody. I think the ruling is a big blow to Democrats. It's a huge win for Republicans and President Trump at this time because their wish will not come true of gagging him in a courtroom or a jail cell so they can cheat and win the race. They actually have to win fair and square, an honest race.
God forbid. Oh. Now these sleepyheads are clapping. Kat, do you think this is a big ego ploy on all these people claiming they're going to be targets? Oh, I'm going to be targeted. Nobody cares about you, Rachel.
I'm sure someone out there does.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah, look, in general, I'm all for accountability for our leaders, all for that. I'm confused by a lot of the reaction to this because it said official acts, but it didn't really get into what those specifically were.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of like kicked the can elsewhere for that. So I don't understand. I specifically don't understand the assassination thing.
Yeah.
Because it says this doesn't apply to private acts, and I do feel like assassination, you keep that on the down low.
Yeah, yes.
Like, I have heard that about assassination.
Yes.
That's like the most down low thing you can do is assassinate somebody. They can't know it was you.
Yes.
And also, it seems a little bit to me almost like some of these people, ironically, they're almost taking Trump at his word a little bit. Because Trump is the one who's been saying, I'm immune to everything from when I was president. I'm immune to it all. That's not what this says. And in fact, that's not even what his lawyers were arguing.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's what we're hearing people be flipping out about who are concerned about it. So it's almost like they're taking him ironically at his word a little bit.
Tyrus, is this the shiny object to divert from the real story, which is still Joe Biden is not president?
The shiny object is the unshiny object coming out of his eyes. Like he's not present. There's no lights at home. You wouldn't go trick-or-treating if Joe Biden was a house. You'd be like, oh, no, kids, there's the lights out. The lawn looks like this house needs to be foreclosed. Let's keep moving. You wouldn't go to his house. But I think what we're seeing is people who are coming out and they're trying to play this, he's going to come after me. No, the law is going to come after you. And they know, they have been, when you make deals with the administration to get all the interviews and to get all the little things and get all the bookings to play ball with them, and they've all done it. They pushed the Russia scheme. They pushed whatever the White House sent to them, they pushed it, and we saw it again today. So now we're starting to see who more of the co-conspirators are because they have to double down because they're in too deep because eventually, and to piggyback off the down low thing, the down low in this little relationship is Kamala. Because she's eventually going to talk and will probably be the one leaking stuff out as long as they continue to go this route, which she might be the ally we never thought we had in terms of getting to the truth of this. But everyone's saying, oh, he's going to come after me, so that's going to be their defense. He's coming after me. No, You lied to the American people. All the things you accused him of, you were doing it in broad daylight. And now the jig is up, and we all see that the lights are out in the house. You want to say, oh, it wasn't me. No, it was you. So he doesn't have to go after them, but the Department of Justice should already be looking into this.
Right.
They should be in front of this. You know he can't serve. We saw it.
Yes. It was a disaster. All right, up next. He took down Tricky Dick, and now he says Biden's sick.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.